Welcome to the First Church Orlando podcast. Here you will find recordings of weekly sermons, devotions, interviews, and seminar recordings from the First United Methodist Church of Orlando. For more information about First Church Orlando, please visit our website at firstchurchorlando.org or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Now, enjoy the podcast.
Welcome to today's podcast. Our theme for this year's Lent is My Story, helping all of us become more aware of the ways our personal faith stories intersect with God's story and Scripture. Throughout this season of Lent, we're introducing you to members of our First Church family, asking them to tell us a little bit about their stories. My name is Vance Rains, and I'm the lead pastor at First Church Orlando. And I'm pleased to introduce you today to Sarah McLean, and I'm looking forward to this conversation with her and hearing her story. So Sarah, welcome to the podcast. How about we begin, just ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself, ways you are connected to and involved at First Church Orlando.
Well, I have been a member at First Church, I think, for going on 14 years. I was a cradle Episcopalian, born in Nashville, baptized in front of the kindergarten Sunday school class. But when kids were elementary age and we were in the Episcopal Church, and all the sermons were not geared toward my beliefs. They were anti-gay. And week after week, not just once, I was like, no, God is love. And if I'm letting my children hear this, that's not what I want to do. And my husband's family have been Methodist. His grandfather was a Methodist minister, actually in Winter Park. So one day we were racing to go to church up in at our other church, and it was late, and we were driving past First Methodist, and I thought, their church service starts right now too, and pulled in with the children, and boy, our oldest best friend was sitting on the front row, and it was like, oh, why have we been going to church anywhere else? This fits and it feels good, and it's been a great fit for all of our family.
That's great.
Including Brock, who was not involved when we were at the other church. And I've enjoyed my time at First Church, volunteering in Sunday school or and in the hospitality committee, of course. And for the past 6 years with this Mommy and Me group, which has really come to mean a lot to me. It's great fun to spend a morning with new mothers and their children. Not that I'm a singer. That's not part of my gift. But I remember distinctly being a mother of 3 young children, and you need a community. And for, past few years, we've really enjoyed it. And I'm also meeting Penny Leggett. I wouldn't have known Penny without that connection.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Well, I did want to ask you about the Mommy and Me, and I wonder how you've experienced God in that particular ministry.
I think when you're in that situation where you're thrown into a new situation, you do not get a Bible or a reference guide or an owner's manual when you have a child. Now, maybe you had younger siblings or maybe you babysat, but that's not the same as having your own child.
Right.
And just allowing these people to have a place to have fellowship and watching God work. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And I'm honored to be there and just witness it. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing that. I know it's meaningful to all the moms, and I'm sure the children as well.
Yeah.
You said a moment ago, and part of your coming to First Church from the Episcopal Church was you knew that God is love, and you weren't hearing that in sermons. And I'm curious how you knew that. Where did that message come from for you?
Oh, from a young age. I mean, my parents were really good people. They planted a new Episcopal church, not in our neighborhood, but we were there. We were there. My dad was senior warden. Mom was always doing stuff there. And as a young child, I thought about this earlier. I shared a birthday with our Father Dan. And so that made me feel kinship. And he was a beautiful, could give a really beautiful sermon and involve everyone. And we would talk about it at the dinner table. It's like, wow, he leaned back. He was talking about ants. And so the children were involved in his message. I'm not describing it well, but yeah, I felt included and knew that God loved me from a young age.
And that came from a really strong church background, it sounds like.
Yeah, strong church background, but the Episcopal Church is different. I remember when our kids were in preschool at First Pres, they would come home and they prayed differently. I mean, we always sat down and said the same prayer at dinner every single night. Now, God heard that prayer too, but to hear your 3 or 4-year-old come home with the ability to pray, it's like, wow, I have things to learn. So
we all do.
Yeah.
Are there other parts of your Episcopal background that are kind of still with you?
Yeah, I doubled up. I mean, we're not going to churches now in person, but yeah, I'll go and take communion at the church downtown midweek, just because sometimes I need it. You know. And the confession of sin. I don't think the method. I know the 9:30 service is not going there, but that's
the liturgical practices and
The Methodist Church has that quadrilateral, which fills in the gap. You know, I'd take that to heart. But there are sweet things about the Episcopal Church too. So
absolutely. Yeah. Well, and of course Methodism came from that Anglican background.
And we started going to 9:30, and I would pop into the 11 o'clock sometimes, and it would feel so Episcopal, and all of a sudden the song would be different, and it was like, oh, I really wanted it to feel just like the Episcopal Church, but that's okay.
You said, I referenced it, and you said earlier, God is love. God is love. I wonder, for Sarah, what other words come to mind that describe God for you?
Oh, mercy. And of course, mercy and grace. I think Brock would say justice.
An attorney.
And as social justice more, So.
Yeah, clearly biblical. Why mercy came to your mind so quickly there? I'm curious about that.
I rely on it. I receive it. And it's too important.
Yeah. You also said grace.
Yeah.
Are there examples for you, like of when you feel like you've been a recipient of grace or mercy?
When I run or walk, I used to run, now I walk. That's a time to clear my head.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're taking stuff around and just beating yourself up. And there was one time, 25 years ago or so, I was just beating myself up on that walk. And all of a sudden it came over me. You're really loved. You're loved deep down in the core. And let it go. And then there are times when just interaction with another person, they'll say, no, you're fine. You're fine. When we take on the human baggage, and
Right.
someone else points out, no, you're fine.
Yeah.
You're so fine. So I
Yeah.
want to share that with other people and have them feel that way. Let me be the vessel, I guess.
Yeah. I wonder. Don't let me lay this on you if it isn't true, but that obviously that that theme of mercy and love is so big for you. I wonder if that's part of why you were so bothered by those messages that you were hearing in that other church, that sound very different than what you know to be true.
Right. Or what I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned walking, and I know you walk. I see we live around the lake from each other, so I see you out walking, and it sounds like that for you is a spiritual practice in some ways. Do you have other spiritual practices?
Oh, if I'm really good, I'm reading my Bible.
Yeah.
And in times when I've been sort of, I don't want to call it in a dark place, but going through something that was really weighing heavy, that wasn't just baggage or whatever, having a good devotional helped. Yeah. And I'm just a better person when I'm in a Bible study. I can tell you that.
Yeah, we all are. I think that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good recommendation. Yeah.
Praying for other people, having people pray for you. It's really important.
You have a friend with you.
My friend Jenny is here.
Yeah. Maybe you've already answered this question. I'm curious what's your favorite thing about God?
Ooh, one of my favorite things about God is his sense of humor. Was in a study once and I was like, oh, I really want to be intentional about waking up early and praying. And then I had to go back to the group. It was a group of women, and say, I wasn't getting up out of bed. And all of a sudden in my head, distinctly, I heard a knock. Like he was like, hey, wake up. But it was not a real knock at the door. It was just a prompt. And I thought, that's kind of funny.
Yeah. I think we missed that. Like the Gospels are full of stories where Jesus clearly was being funny, but being removed from that culture and making assumptions that religion is supposed to be serious business. I think we miss out on the humor of God a lot.
Yeah. It's a part of all your life, not just Sundays or in the Bible.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other things about God that you personally just find very, I don't know, meaningful, appealing?
Well, just like I had a good relationship with my parents growing up, so that fatherly love is that feels really good. That he's going to love me even if I go off on a tangent. He'll be right there.
Yeah.
Maybe telling me you can do better than that, or
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting. Like you've brought up a couple times, like growing up in the church and having meals at home, and of course your involvement with Mommy and me. I know you're a mom and a wife, and I wonder what you learned about God through parenting. What do you know about God because you're a mom?
It takes a village.
Yeah.
When I was a new mom, I didn't realize I didn't have a village when our first child was born. It wasn't I thought I had to do it all myself,
right.
And that didn't feel very comfortable. So, to find that there really is a community out there, a fellowship that can help.
Yeah. And then it's interesting that like that experience now, I don't know if there's a direct line, but now here you are helping moms have community and be village for each other.
Yeah.
I think that's how God works, isn't it?
Yeah. You don't just have to, it's not just your personal relationship, it's how you share it, I guess.
So you mentioned earlier the priest you grew up with, was it Father Dan? Is that what you said? Yeah. Sounds like he was a bit of a spiritual hero for you.
Oh yeah, he really was. And funny story, I mentioned also Brock's grandfather was a Methodist minister, and they lived when we first started dating at Lake Junaluska. They had retired to a little cabin there. And first time I went to visit, they said, "Oh, we have someplace special. We want to take you." I said, "Great. We're going to go up for Sunday dinner, I guess." And they took us up to the Swag, which is nearby. Well, that was owned by my priest. In 1970, he and his brother owned it and built it. And we went on a family retreat.
No kidding.
So they take us up there, and there's his wife, Dina, was the, what do you call it? Manager of the property at that point. They turned it into a bed and breakfast. Jenny, sorry.
No, it's okay.
They turned it into a bed and breakfast, and it was great fun to walk in the door and go, "Oh, I know these people." And they had a scrapbook of that first retreat, and I think I won points with Brock's grandparents because I'd been there and knew the people.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. How great. In a small world, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wondered if, do you have any other spiritual heroes, people who've inspired you?
Current hero would be another Nashvilleian, Becca Stevens, and her project with Thistle Farms. Oh my,
Say more about that.
She's also an Episcopal priest, barefoot at the, I think St. Augustine's is affiliated with Vanderbilt.
Okay.
And I guess it's been 15 or 20 years. I don't know exactly how long. She has a ministry to women who are coming out of prison or on the street or addicted, and they help walk with them. They call it a circle, and they put them in a home and help these women get back on their feet. They have started businesses. She also now is around the world. I don't know how many in the United States, but it's worldwide. And they empower women through giving them job, work, and income, and helping them get off the streets. So I think she's awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Yeah, great story. Thank you for telling me about her. That's great.
Yeah.
That really seems like it resonates with that, how you talked about mercy earlier. Here's a ministry that extends mercy. Yeah. Anyone else come to mind? Could be current, could be people from.
Well, current, Richard Rohr is my daily. Sometimes I can't get there mentally, but I love the non-dual thinking.
Yeah.
Someone wrote in, he didn't write it, but someone wrote in a comment that we're not humans trying to be spiritual. We're spiritual beings living in a human body. That just,
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
that's a great one.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of others. The Peace Pole project we did. All those people in the Peace Pole. So.
Yeah, I was just out at the Peace Pole yesterday, and I don't know why, but it caught my attention, and I took a moment and looked at the names there around the Peace Pole. It's out in front of our sanctuary, and some pretty significant names out there, men and women, people of different generations and different colors and cultures, and
And I think Phyllis Stopford may have the list that how the Thursday morning group selected those people.
Yeah, I'd love to see that list.
Yeah.
Well, how about one more question? If Sarah could ever ask God one question and get a clear answer, and know you knew that, know you knew what he said, what would you ask?
And I'm not sure I would understand his answer, but
Right.
why do bad things happen?
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
I know to look for the helpers when something bad happens and
Mm.
God's with me,
Mm.
but darn.
Yeah. But why did we have to?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you ever get that answer, please let me know. I think that's when we all struggle with, for good reason. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for good reason. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for this time and sharing your heart and your life. Thanks for this great conversation and sharing a bit of your story with us. I know everyone who listens is going to be blessed by it. And to those who are listening to this conversation, I know you've enjoyed it, and we hope you will keep listening to more great stories from more of our friends at First Church Orlando. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Vance.
We hope you enjoyed the podcast and that you will listen again in the future. If you enjoyed today's message, we hope you'll subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform and share it with others on social media. For more information about First Church Orlando, please visit our website at firstchurchorlando.org or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If this podcast is a valuable resource to you, we invite you to give to this ministry by making a financial contribution at firstchurchorlando.org/give. Now, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace.